8th place for Charles Leclerc and 5th for Lewis Hamilton at the Red Bull Ring is the exact statistical failure. Ferrari's Silverstone upgrade package was engineered to a race before Zandvoort. That double points collapse in Austria was not just a bad weekend, it was the specific data point that triggered a complete aerodynamic rethink. Yet we still do not know if the new parts actually delivered the tire management fix on track because Ferrari has refused to release any verified performance delta since the British Grand Prix. The team principal Fred Vasseur confirmed on record that this result stemmed directly from a lack of raw pace forcing tire-preserving compromises, and he separately admitted the team paid the ultimate price in Austria because they failed to execute long data gathering stints during Friday practice. When you don't have the raw pace to fight at the front, you end up destroying your tires and wrecking your strategy just trying to compensate. That quote defines the entire technical crisis. It explains why the Silverstone update was never about lap time alone. It was about survival. But here is the tension that hangs over everything heading into the Dutch GP. We know what they built, we know why they built it, we do not know if it worked. The gap between engineering intent and race day reality remains completely unquantified in every official statement released so far. So where does that leave us right now? We are staring at a massive development gamble with zero public confirmation of its success. 3 distinct aerodynamic components were introduced at Silverstone to target this precise failure mode: a revised exhaust system, a new low-drag diffuser, an updated active rear wing officially called the Macarena. This is not a standard DRS flap that simply changes angle. The Macarena is an active aero component that physically flips upside down when activated on the straights, creating a large structural gap that sheds drag and raises top speed through a completely different mechanical action. The stated aim of this entire package was improved chassis balance and more predictable rear tire management across a complete lap, directly targeting the degradation issue identified in Austria. But intent is not proof, design is not delivery, and the absence of hard numbers is deafening. Nobody has confirmed the gain, no telemetry has been published, no post-race analysis has validated the tire degradation fix with actual lap-by-lap data. We are being asked to trust the process without seeing the product. That uncertainty is the real story here, not the parts themselves, not the engineering ambition, the silence. Because if this package did not fix the Austria problem, then Zandvoort becomes another testbed rather than a validation point. And if it did work, Ferrari is sitting on a competitive advantage they are deliberately keeping hidden from both their rivals and their own fans. Which scenario is true? The research does not say, the team will not say. And that missing answer is exactly what makes the upcoming Dutch GP so critical to understanding whether this entire development cycle was a triumph or a very expensive lesson. We have the blueprint, we lack the verdict. The root cause of that Austrian collapse was not a mechanical failure or a strategic error in the traditional sense, but a fundamental preparation deficit that Fred Vasseur has now explicitly owned. He stated clearly that the team paid the ultimate price because they failed to execute long, data-gathering stints during Friday practice, a decision that left engineers blind to the true degradation rate when it mattered most. Without those critical running laps, the setup direction was essentially theoretical. Theoretical setups lose races, data wins them. Ferrari chose theory over evidence at the Red Bull Ring, and the result was 2 cars sliding around on worn rubber while trying to defend positions they never had the pace to hold in the first place. This admission transforms our understanding of the Silverstone upgrade entirely. It was not merely an aerodynamic refresh, it was a philosophical correction. The team is no longer treating tire management as a secondary characteristic to be optimized after finding peak downforce. They are now treating it as the primary design constraint for every new component introduced this season. But does acknowledging the mistake actually prevent it from happening again? That is the question haunting Maranello right now. Because admitting you skipped necessary homework does not guarantee you will pass the next exam. The pressure to validate this new approach is immense. Every lap at Silverstone was scrutinized not just for speed, but for consistency. Engineers were watching rear tire temperatures with obsessive focus, searching for the stability that was completely absent in Austria. Yet the absence of confirmed performance data means we cannot yet say whether this philosophical shift has translated into measurable track improvement. We only know the intention changed, we do not know if the outcome followed. This distinction matters enormously heading into Zandvoort. A circuit with high-speed banking and abrasive surface demands exactly the kind of predictable rear-end behavior Ferrari claims to have engineered. If the Silverstone package truly addressed the underlying balance issue, then Zandvoort should show immediate benefits. If it did not, then the team faces another weekend of compromised strategy and defensive driving. The stakes are no longer about podiums or championships in the abstract. They are about proving that Ferrari has learned how to prepare properly, that they understand the difference between hoping a car works and knowing it will. Vasseur's honesty about Austria is refreshing, but transparency alone does not fix tire degradation, only engineering does. And until we see verified numbers showing reduced wear rates and improved stint lengths, every claim about fixing Austria's exact problem remains an unproven hypothesis. The paddock knows this. Rivals are watching closely, waiting to see if Ferrari's self-diagnosis leads to genuine recovery or just another cycle of optimistic promises followed by disappointing Sundays. Because in Formula 1, apologies expire quickly. Results are the only currency that retains value. And right now, Ferrari's account balance is still uncertain. Picture this for a second. You are designing a wing that must generate massive downforce in corners, but then physically invert itself on straights to dump drag, all while maintaining structural integrity at 300 km per hour. That is the engineering reality behind the Macarena active rear wing deployed at Silverstone, a component that operates through a fundamentally different mechanism than any standard DRS flap seen elsewhere on the 2026 grid. Instead of simply opening at an angle, this system flips the entire element upside down when activated, creating a large structural gap that radically alters the airflow profile. It is not just an adjustment, it is a complete aerodynamic state change. This distinction matters because it represents Ferrari's most aggressive interpretation of active aero regulations this season. The revised exhaust system and new low-drag diffuser introduced alongside it were specifically matched to this wing's unique behavior, forming a coordinated package aimed at improving chassis balance rather than chasing peak straight-line speed alone. Every element was designed to work in concert to stabilize the rear axle under load, but coordinating three interdependent aerodynamic surfaces introduces enormous complexity. Small calibration errors compound quickly. A diffuser optimized for one wing position may stall when that wing inverts. Exhaust flow tuned for high downforce corners might disrupt seal integrity during the transition phase. These integration challenges explain why Ferrari has been so cautious about releasing performance data. They are not hiding success. They are likely still validating that all three components actually work together as intended across varying fuel loads and tire conditions. The stated aim was more predictable, rear tire management across a complete lap, directly targeting the degradation failure mode from Austria, yet predictability is notoriously difficult to quantify without extensive running. Wind tunnel correlation does not guarantee track behavior. Simulation accuracy does not ensure race day consistency. This is where the gap between announcement and confirmation widens. We know the parts exist. We understand their theoretical function. We have zero verified evidence they achieved their stated objective in competition. That uncertainty is not incidental. It is central to evaluating whether this package truly fixes Austria's exact problem or merely addresses its symptoms. Because if the Macarena wing delivers the promised drag reduction but introduces new instability during activation transitions, then tire wear could actually worsen despite improved top speed. Engineering trade-offs are unforgiving. Solving one problem often creates another. And until Ferrari publishes comparative stint data showing reduced degradation rates with this configuration versus previous specifications, every technical description remains speculative. The paddock understands this dynamic intimately. Teams watch each other's upgrades not for what they claim, but for what they reveal through body language and timing. Quiet confidence speaks louder than press releases. Hesitation signals unresolved issues. Right now, Ferrari's communication suggests cautious optimism tempered by awareness that validation takes time they may not have if Zandvoort demands immediate answers. Remember how this all started? 8th place for Charles Leclerc and 5th for Lewis Hamilton at the Red Bull Ring is the exact statistical failure. Ferrari's Silverstone upgrade package was engineered to a race before Zandvoort. Yet that very data comparison has now forced an even more urgent response. Direct telemetry analysis between Austria and Silverstone revealed the SF26 behaved fundamentally differently at each circuit, exposing a correlation gap so severe that engineers realized the existing floor could not be optimized for both track types simultaneously. This discovery triggered an emergency manufacturing sprint. A brand new floor, never originally scheduled for this phase of development, was approved and built specifically for the Dutch GP before the mandatory summer shutdown began. Speed was essential. Precision was non-negotiable. Resources were redirected overnight. This fast-tracked component represents something deeper than routine iteration. It signals that Ferrari's understanding of their own car's aerodynamic platform is still evolving in real time, shaped by race weekend revelations rather than pre-season simulations. The fact that they identified this behavioral divergence only after running two contrasting packages suggests the Austria-Silverstone sequence served as an unintended but invaluable diagnostic test. One track exposed tire degradation under dirty air. The other tested high-speed aero efficiency. Together, they mapped the boundaries of the current concept's adaptability, and those boundaries proved insufficient, hence the new floor. But here is why this actually matters. Introducing a major structural component like a floor just weeks after a significant wing and diffuser update compresses the validation window dramatically. Engineers now have less running time to correlate wind tunnel predictions with track behavior before competitive pressure intensifies again. There is no margin for integration errors. No buffer for unexpected interactions between the new floor and the Macarena wing's unique inversion mechanism. Every lap at Zandvoort must serve dual purposes, validating the floor itself while confirming it harmonizes with the entire Silverstone package. That is an enormous cognitive and operational load during a race weekend already demanding peak focus. The team cannot afford another Austria-style preparation deficit. They cannot skip long stints or gamble on theoretical setups. Not when the cost of being wrong has already been publicly acknowledged by Vasseur himself. This new floor is therefore not just a part, it is a commitment. A declaration that Ferrari will no longer accept incomplete understanding of their car's behavior across varying circuit demands. Whether that commitment translates into measurable performance remains the central uncertainty heading into the final stretch of the season. Charles Leclerc has now directed a stark warning inward at Ferrari's own development strategy, citing McLaren's rapid competitive shift at the Hungarian GP as undeniable proof that resting on recent aero updates is a luxury they cannot afford. This was not trash talk aimed at Woking or a public jab at rivals. It was a deliberate internal message emphasizing that the pace of in-season evolution elsewhere makes complacency fatal. McLaren's progress in Hungary reordered the competitive balance almost overnight, demonstrating how quickly a static development plan becomes obsolete in the 2026 season. Leclerc's intervention highlights a crucial reality. The Silverstone and Zandvoort packages are milestones, not destinations. Stopping here invites being overtaken. Aggression must be sustained. Development cycles cannot pause for validation alone. They must continue accelerating even while current upgrades are still being assessed. This internal pressure reshapes how we interpret every future update. Each new part is no longer just a fix for a past problem. It is also insurance against being left behind by competitors who never stopped pushing. The margin between leading and chasing has compressed dramatically.